I know founders working 60 hours a week, making 500,000, and others working 20 hours a week, making millions. It's not about effort. It's not about how much you charge. It's about control. The ones who let go, who delegate, who simplify, and trust their systems. They scale faster, more predictably, and they enjoy life while they're doing it. In this video, I'm gonna show you how to make the shift. Most entrepreneurs think the CEO mindset means think bigger and be more confident. The reality is the CEO mindset is about how you structure your time, your energy, and your decision making. Here's the real problem. You started your business for freedom, but created a job that owns you. I typically say people quit their 9 to 5 to work 24/7. And now they work more hours, they make less, and they're more stressed out. They should have just stayed on the job. So what we're gonna cover in this quick video is the 3 pillars of the CEO mindset that create true freedom. Cause I'll be honest with you, I used to work 80+ hour weeks, Monday through Sunday, what I call 8 to faint, grinding, cause I thought it was about hustling and grinding, putting in more work, putting in more efforts, sleeping when you're dead, if you waking up at 3 in the morning, going to falling asleep, sacrificing everything. I gained weight, I did all the things, and I wasn't really moving the needle. It wasn't until I made a simple shift, what I'm gonna share with you in this video, where the game changed and I was able to go from working 80-hour weeks to 20-hour weeks, getting in the best shape of my life, having an amazing relationship with God and my family, and traveling all over the world while I'm growing the company. It's an Inc. 5000 fastest growing company and impacting people from all over the globe. And I'm gonna share with you the shifts of how I applied it, how we've helped other business owners apply it, and how you can apply it as well. So point number 1 is CEO time versus employee time. Most business owners schedule their days like employees. Now, the CEO mindset is you design your calendar around high leverage activities first. This is the 80-20 rule in action. 20% of your activities drive 80% of your results. So if we was to break this out, we have a framework that we call the Core 4, right? It's the Core 4, and it's our strategic scale flywheel. Right? So let's walk through this. So basically what this looks like is we have lead attraction. Now when we call it lead attraction, it's more like, we call it client attraction actually. Well, this is, for some people, it's lead generation. But when somebody engages with our brand the first time, they're now a lead. Well, they're now a client, and we treat them as such. So we got client attraction. Then we got client nurture, right? And then we got client conversion. This is where they actually pay you money. And then we got flawless client delivery. So the first thing we want to do is we want to simplify the business. It's these 4 things. Any things outside of this is typically a waste, right? If you're building webs, if you're like designing now if you're designing websites and all these different things, that's fine, because some of those things are important. You need funnels, you need tech setup, and all those different type of things. But those type of things are things that you can hand off to other individuals. You as a founder want to be focused on developing systems and assets that funnel these. So are we developing assets that drive client attraction? That could look like creating content, that could look like shooting creatives for ads, right? That may look like writing copy, or that may look like presenting to qualified groups. Are you developing assets that look like client nurture, right? These could be little videos shooting for client nurture. This could be designing systems for your team, your enrollment team, or your marketing team to actually create, to nurture your prospects, right? And then what about systems to do client conversion? This could be events, right? If you do live events, if you do online events, in-person events, whatever that looks like, group sales meetings, whatever that may look like, are you developing assets or doing presentations for client conversion? These are gonna be that part of those 20% of the activities that drive 80% of the results. And then when it comes down to fulfillment, are you designing fulfillment systems that get clients results, and it also creates referrals to bring in new clients, because you want to have a predictable referral system at the same time. So these are what I just showed you are the 20% of things to focus on that's going to drive 80% of the results. So you want to think about CEO time blocks versus reactive time. Now in those CEO time blocks, you want to be focused on those core 4 that I just talked to you about. So one of the things I do with my calendar to keep me out of reactive mode, I literally track how many questions that my team members asked of me every week. That's part of my Freedom Accelerator process. So I'm looking at, okay, how many questions this week did the team need from me? Because if they got to ask me a question and they need to wait on me to answer the question for them to move forward, I'm now the bottleneck. So I'm literally tracking those. And somebody asked me when they was like, well, how many is good? How many is bad? How many questions from your team is bad? And I was like, well, one, right? Because if there's a question for me, that means there's a lack of system. So if I'm on vacation or if I'm somewhere and I'm not able to reply, that actually grinds the machine to a screeching halt. So I don't want to be in reactive mode. I want to be in CEO time mode, and maybe 1 to 5% of your time is in reactive mode, because sometimes things do happen, but you want the majority of your time to literally be architected. because you are the architect of the machine. Point 2 is systems thinking versus hustle thinking. The hustle mindset is I need to work harder to make more money. The CEO mindset is I need to build systems that work without me. The shift, like I just said a few minutes ago, is going from being the bottleneck to being the architect. So I give you an example. I have a client named Danielle. So Danielle actually, she has an amazing operations agency. She's doing some amazing work with high-level entrepreneurs. And based on her fulfillment processes she had designed, she was really sucked into fulfillment, and she really values time with her husband and time with her kids. But she was sucked into fulfillment. So we looked at her system and architected the system a little bit differently. And because her biggest hang up was like, my clients want to work with me specifically. And I was like, your clients actually don't want to work with you specifically. They actually want to get a specific outcome. They're not paying you for the opportunity to work with you. They're paying you for the opportunity to get a specific result. So now we want to architect your system where they can actually get the same result just like if they were working with you. And now this may look like a couple things. Number one, refining the system so they still get a predictable outcome that they want. So what we did is we laid down, we got the whiteboard out, and we laid out their current fulfillment process, and we laid out all the different elements in it. So for example, we looked at, okay, once we designed it all, the whole client journey was like, where are you in here? And then we began to remove her from these specific pieces out of the process, and then we put new people in, because she already had people that could actually fill those gaps. The biggest thing was she wasn't allowing them to fill the gap because she was sold on the idea that people wanted to work with her, so she had herself stuck in the system. So we removed her out of that whole process, and then her price even went up without her even working in the process. And now it's streamlined, so she's generating more revenue, more profit, and she has more freedom, and her clients are getting amazing results because they're able to work with the specialists and get the results, and she's able to work at the highest level where she wants to spend the majority of her time, which is in strategy and not actually in implementation. She actually sent me a message on Instagram the other day where she actually enrolled a $50,000 client based on us implementing this into the process, and she didn't have a $50,000 offer at first. We just made some adjustments, and then voila, it laid out just like that. And she texted me, like, yeah, it worked. $50,000 client. Thank you so much. It's a beautiful thing, right? Less effort, more revenue, operating like a real architect. Because when you think about it, if you think about a big skyscraper, the architect doesn't work the hardest. The architect does the design, and then you have the construction workers that actually go out and do the building, the actual work, but the architect typically makes more. See how that works? Now, if this is hitting home and you're realizing you've been running your business the hard way, I made something just for you. My team and I installed the exact systems that free founders from daily operations. Use the link below to book a free strategic scale session so we can map out what that looks like for your business. Now, point 3 is about ownership versus self-employment. Now, the self-employed, the business needs you to run. The business owner, the business actually runs without you. Here's the reality. All entrepreneurs aren't business owners, and all business owners aren't entrepreneurs. Here's a test. I call this the founder freedom test. Can you take a 2-week vacation without checking in? When we work with clients, I tell them it's mandatory that you take vacations. We have them take vacations, and we have them take free days. And they're like, what am I supposed to do on free days? Anything that doesn't look like work. And it's a foreign concept because they're so addicted to work. The CEO mindset creates predictable systems, not personality dependent processes. Now, the last one is point 4, and this is what I call the freedom formula. Freedom equals systems plus team plus clear processes. Now, here's why most people get this backwards. They hire first and then try to create systems. It's too late then. Well, it's not too late, but that's a very, very expensive way to go about doing it. Here's the right sequence. Write this down. Like, you're gonna probably wanna pause this video and watch this a couple times. Here's the right process. I call it DSD. You wanna document, systematize, then delegate. So when we're working with a new client, the first thing we sit down and we say, okay, what do we want to eat? What do I mean eat? We say, okay, what do we want to eliminate? Because sometimes we'll go, in the entrepreneur world, we hear people say, well, go out and just find a who, not a how, and just go out and, just hire these people. The first thing you do is delegate. Notice I said we're gonna delegate last because people out here, they're finding who's and they're hiring who's and they're delegating stuff that should just be eliminated. So what are you currently doing in the business that you just always done, so you just still doing it out of habit, or people on your team who are just doing stuff just out of habit that should just be eliminated? And then once we get stuff eliminated, then what can we automate? Yeah, what are you doing right now that could be automated with some kind of tool, maybe AI? What can we automate? Something you're doing or something on your team is somebody on your team is doing that could just be automated, but they just always done it because that's what you hired them to do, so they're just doing what you asked them to do. So what can we automate? So now these two things alone just freed up bandwidth for you and people on your team. And then it's like, what can we now transfer? Did you have on your plate that can now be transferred to somebody else who now has some free bandwidth? What can somebody else on your team transfer to somebody else now that they have some free bandwidth? And now from there, we can decide if we want to hire somebody else and bring somebody in. See how that works? Now, typically the pushback I get is I tried systems before, but they didn't work. Well, systems always work if you design them right. So 9 times out of 10, the system wasn't designed right. If you're ready to make the shift from operator to CEO, that's exactly what me and my team help entrepreneurs do every day. We help you install the systems that help you work less, earn more, and finally enjoy the business you built. Here's reality. Your business shouldn't be a grind. You should be building with grace and ease so you can operate in your gifting. Hit the link below to book your free strategic scale session where we'll map out how to scale without the stress. And before you go, watch this next video. It's called Why 97% Fail at Business and the Marketing Mistakes to Avoid. And it'll show you exactly what to stop doing so your systems actually work.